special meeting of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista, Tuesday, May 31st, 2022 at 6 p.m. Councilmember Freeman, can you start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Hello, Norma. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Edge,
Here.
Vice Mayor Flores,
Here.
Councilmember Friels,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Here.
Mayor Jordan.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Public comment will be on will be taken on agenda items before an action is taken by the council during the meeting to provide verbal public comments on the agenda items during this meeting. Please call 1-669-900-6833 or log into Zoom and enter meeting ID number 881-1493-7403. Discussion items. Review the draft budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022-2023 and provide direction to staff prior to adoption at the June 14th meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the City Council. Wendy is online with us today as well. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Wendy.
And we're going to rely on Wendy's internet to walk us through the ClearGov budget book. But first, I have a few slides. I'm going to review some of the slides that I provided at the last City Council meeting, and it's essentially the same City Council report. I did have a chance today to go through and fine tune my capital improvement budget for your recommendation, recommended to you, and also to update some fund balances that Wendy's been putting together and sharing with me. So with that, I'll go through. And this slide presentation still says 4A because it's from the last City Council meeting on the 24th, actually from the 17th. So we've been talking about budget as often, and you know me, I'll talk about budget as much as I can, especially when things are growing. And then that was the message, and it has been the message since our mid-year review in January. The general fund is at 2.7 million. I know it was less than 2 million when I arrived in 2019, so we've been very fortunate. We've seen a steady growth rate, about 20%. And the sales tax is growing the fastest, more than $500,000. So that's really good news to see the sales tax grow in that way. And what I realized today is that if sales tax is growing, then our Measure G money for roads is growing as well. And I'll get to that in a little bit. General fund revenue exceeds expenditures by close to $500,000. So we built in some changes into our operations budget, including some accounting for the high cost of inflation. 5.2% was the average from the engineers review publication for the previous 12 months. We know that March was closer to 8%. So this is actually a compromise of 5.2% across the board for salaries. We looked at most of our major contracts, and except in special cases like the fire department, where they're in a 3-year agreement and only can go up 3% this next year, we've added 10% to other contracts, including water, private security, and our sewer operations. The public safety budget, when I last presented it, was 20% of the general fund expenses, but we did add in the cost of a second dedicated deputy, which pretty much doubles the public safety agreement with the sheriff. So that's going to come closer in line to where other cities are, even still far behind, not the 60% that some cities experience, but ours will be closer to 28%. And then we're recommending, as many neighboring cities have done, an employee hazard pay for those who work full-time or at least 30 hours a week during the COVID response, the heart of the COVID response, which the governor determined was March 13th, 2020 to June 15th, 2021. We can talk about that some more if you like. In the enterprise funds in particular, we're always watching the water enterprise fund and the sewer enterprise fund. Both have revenues well in excess of expenses. And because we were successful raising the sewer rate, went into effect in February, see that we're already starting to gather money to pay for the force main to Hollister. We've already spent about $700,000 on the design of that project. So it's getting put to use, as you'll see in the CIP when I share with you. Let's see. Now see, my internet is so slow. Anyway, the red print is some of my updates. We talked about adding a community coordinator to better utilize our shared recreation resources that will be coming online soon. I'm hoping to bring forward a joint use agreement from the school district. I spoke with the superintendent Friday. I was hoping to be able to bring you that joint use agreement at the June 14th council meeting. Better use of improved local facilities. We actually started construction here in the council chambers today, which frees up time for me to begin to work finally on the community hall and the acoustics there. And at that point, we'd be able to bring back senior and teen recreation programs. I know that's been talked about by many members of the public. Reestablish our youth commission. That was also discussed between the superintendent and I on Friday, reestablishing the youth commission. It turns out that the Huaraches have another child going through the school system. So she's already been nominated. So when we're ready, they're ready to take us on. To be a volunteer coordinator, to help us coordinate volunteers for our events, especially with youth, if possible, get them out to the Earth Day event and some other opportunities that we may have. And special events and city participation. She could be this coordinator could be the city's representative, working with the local groups as they put together special events. In public safety, we have new private security services, executed the agreement today. We've added $150,000 for a second dedicated deputy. And when the time is right, we'll get everyone together in the same room and talk about restructuring our law enforcement so that we can strategize on hours worked and where we do and do not need overlap. So that's in the near future. So the salaries were budgeted to increase from 1.1 million to 1.37 million, which is an 18% overall increase. A lot of that is due to the 5.2% increase across the board. That's a third of it. And we learned today that our workers' compensation, or I think I mentioned in this slideshow, that it was going to increase quite a bit, and it has. It's doubled, more than doubled. So that's unfortunate. And the CIP is now in draft form and attached to this presentation. And before I get into the CIP, are there any questions about operations? And we can go into ClearGov and look at things as well.
No, let's keep it going.
Okay, keep it going. This is it's hard to read, but the point is where there are X's are projects that we're going to be carrying forward from our current 36 projects in our CIP for 21-22, and we're going to carry those over for a total of 33. So this is how the CIP is shaping up. 4 street projects, 1 new street project as a budget for sidewalks. Utility projects, about 9 projects, with 1 new project being our SCADA system. But this also includes the new force main construction. So this budget is really, it's taken on 18 million extra dollars to run that pipe to Hollister, the 6-mile pipe with our compliance project. The parks projects, there are 5 this year, and 3 of them are new projects. Community facilities are pretty much carrying over from last year, as well as some of the equipment we have not bought yet. Our studies, rate studies, et cetera, they're all being carried over. And then special initiatives, we added $100,000 to 2 of those special initiatives, and all 3 now are close to $300,000 a piece. So in terms of capital, we added $20,000 for new park tables and benches. That's an update from our last conversation. We were able to put 200,000 aside for sidewalk repairs, because when we got our Measure G and our other COG revenues that we can use for streets, they were much more than $500,000. The balance is well over $1 million. So we did not improve any streets last year. We just didn't have time, and we changed city engineers in the middle of the year. So we started to put a bid package together for these 7 streets, but we never got it out in the mail. Now we're revisiting this, and we just got television video of some of our sewer and water infrastructure underneath these streets to make sure that it's viable to go ahead and overlay and repair them. But I directed the city engineer today to come back with a list of streets that we could use close to $1.1 million on, 200,000 for sidewalks, and then 900,000 for street improvements. So that's really exciting. Basically, the way I see the CIP traveling this year is there's less of an emphasis on parks and facilities and more of an emphasis on streets. And it'll oscillate back and forth as we use balances that we saved from year to year. We had a lot of money saved up to do park improvements, so it was a good time to do the Franklin Park and Brewery Park projects. This year it's shifting back to streets. That's just the way the funding works. So when people ask, why didn't you budget for sidewalks last year? I didn't have the Measure G money that I have this year to offer a budget. So that's, you got to have the money. That's what the budget's all about. So we reprogrammed and talked about this a lot. This is the American Rescue Plans funds, how we get another $250,000 installment. Our cost estimate for the fencing and to open up the school facility came in less than we anticipated. So we've shuffled some money around. We're adding a little bit more money to the 2 grant programs. They just started cutting checks for those last week. So that was exciting to get that money out the door. I didn't have quite enough to service everybody. So that's why we're asking for a little bit more money there. And then we have these listed, these below the line here, the 3rd Street Transformation Public Safety Initiative would both get a boost from the ARP money. And then $50,000, we have a written request from Teresa Lavignino asking for our support. She's about, I'll have to get the letter out, but that 50,000 is less than half of what they need to finish the fundraising for that project. They do have a fund run coming up in June, and that'll help too. And then some improvements around the Jack cabin and some landscaping that were mentioned by the Historic Society. So with that, this is what the new CIP looks like. And it looks like a lot of money. Adding $19 million to our CIP. Our usual CIP is $3.5 to $4 million. So when I back out the $18 million, you'll see we're adding about $1.5 million to the existing budget of what's left, and you come out with about a $4.1 million total. And then on the left-hand column, we've got the sidewalk repairs as a new project. We're adding money to the pavement management plan, so that's our streets. And then the utility projects, constructing the new force main to Hollister, that's the new project. We're adding money to the telemetry program, our SCADA program, and we're adding money to the Diaz lift station. And then, of course, I've added in what I call the mid-year adjustment, the wastewater treatment plant mid-year. We just purchased the aerator for the treatment plant, and we're in the process of redoing the control panel. It's going to need a little bit more money to change out the medium out there for the filtration system. So working closely with our plant operators, he's making good progress upgrading from the mid-year budget. And then we have the mid-year budget for the joint use of schools, and you'll see the $75,000 reduction here for a $100,000 budget. The track and field contribution is a new project, park tables and benches, and Luck Park historical improvements. So, and that's it for the new projects. The list could be 100 long. We only have the manpower, the human power to get all of these built at the same time. So I'm trying to be a little more concise and actually provide a budget that I think we can build in the next 12 months, or at least get some of these things started. So that includes a little more money for the community hall acoustics, a little more money to improve the fire station apparatus bay. They have a new fire engine that they've ordered more than a year ago that is lost in the logistics nightmare, I guess. So we bought a little time there, but we still have to get plans done, drawn up and approved for that. So that's a project, a facilities project we need to get done this year. And then steel trench plates, we increased the price of that a little bit, doubled that price. So we could get those bought, but we did buy about 5 of the items on this 9-item list from last year. Studies, we have to add money to the sewer rate, water rates. The sewer rate really took all that budget from us, so I'm asking for more money to make that good, to make that whole. You see, we're 38,000 in the hole, so I would plan on adding 70 so that we would have at least 30,000 to finish our water study, which is just about done. And then adding more money to the 3rd Street Master Plan and the Public Safety Committee initiative to bring those up to over 200,000. And then what the Assistant City Manager was able to do is combine the Urban Growth Sphere of Influence initiative with the SB2 grant, $160,000. So that's really a $260,000 budget there. This doesn't show the grant money that we're using to leverage that. So with that, we can walk through the city budget. If anyone has any questions on capital or suggestions for new things that I should be researching, because we have plenty of time to research new ideas. I'm happy to do that. And that's part of the purpose of having these meetings leading up to adoption. So I can have some time to check out some prices or some new ideas that you may have. So before we go into ClearGov, does anyone have any questions?
Councilmember Edge, you want to start us off? Do you have any questions before we review?
Yeah, I do have questions. And I guess I'll start from the beginning of the handout that I got. And thank you, Dawn, for the great overview of your budget. But I do have a few questions. You're proposing a part-time community service coordinator position. How much do those coordinators, what is their income?
I believe we budgeted $24, $25 an hour. And it's part-time.
How many hours?
I don't know, maybe Wendy can remind me. I believe it was 20 hours a week.
Yeah, we budgeted 20 hours a week at $24 per hour.
$24.
Okay. Okay, and let me go on. Going back to the 175 that was budgeted for the school with
Yes.
the fencing. Does this involve the Aromas school at all? I mean, I know that they're all in the same district. Do they benefit from this at all? I'm just curious.
No, it's specifically for San Juan School. The
Okay.
idea is to open up the basketball courts and the fields for non-school hours.
Okay. And then our sphere of influence and urban growth committee, we're moving forward with the county. Are we at the county level now?
No, not yet. Brian's been trying to schedule a joint city council planning commission meeting. And the two bodies would get together and talk about the progress made. And then eventually the map would be submitted to the county and we'd be talking about property tax agreements and so forth. So that's still a ways away, I believe.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to be meeting with the planning commission on the 14th. So that's a part of this right here, right?
Right. I hope that happens on the 14th. I have to apologize. I'm on a plane on the 13th and Brian worked hard on that Friday afternoon and I missed it. So thank you for being flexible there.
And then, I have to say, the meetings that we had, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember. I wasn't able to make any of them because I had, family here. So it would be nice to be included in trying to figure out when to have these big town hall meetings. Because I was interested in attending them. I just couldn't make it. I had too many people in my home for the week. So I just wanted to mention that if you can keep that in mind.
Okay.
And then I've got a whole bunch of questions. The employee hazard, the COVID, what do we call it?
Right.
The employee hazard pay.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me, were there any people that did not work? How did that work? Going back a couple of years now, I can't remember.
Right. When the American Rescue Plan was approved, it included a provision for paying essential workers during the height of the pandemic. So the height of the pandemic was determined to be March 13th through June 15th, 2021. And if for all what cities have done, I've talked with the human resources director for the city of Salinas, and she surveyed, I believe, 12 different cities. And some were paying part-time and some were not paying part-time or a different rate. They ranged anywhere from $800 to $10,000. I got a hold of Hollister's policy from April, and they're paying $2,500 for full-time employees. And so based on the information I gathered from what other cities were doing, I put this recommendation in the budget for our employees. And Wendy helped me put the cost together. It's 22,900 total, 22,900 total. And Wendy was at 8 employees. It included the Rochelle and Rich, code enforcement and library.
So did these employees not work during COVID, or did they work and not get paid? I'm a little confused with this.
No, it's a stipend in addition to for working during the hazardous conditions.
So in addition to their regular pay,
Right.
paid over and above what they made during that time.
Yes, that's what's proposed.
Okay,
And then I'll bring forward a resolution and a specific study on that.
okay,
And it says 10 employees, and they were for employees within the period of time that Dawn mentioned, and they are still presently employed by the city.
okay. And then, like I said, I have a lot of questions. Page 5, you talk about capital improvement projects, $100,000 for sidewalk repairs. Will that include the handicap or how can I put it, redoing the handicap areas that I've been telling you about? Will that include that?
It can. We need to do an assessment. I shared an assessment with the safety committee, and I don't know, I thought I copied it to the council, but we can walk through it when the time is right. I'm suggesting we double the budget from 100 to 200. If you wanted to earmark half of that money just for handicap improvements and sidewalk, we could. It's up to you, Councilmember Edge. Because we're fortunate that we can actually put 200 towards this. So I increased it from 100 to 200 in my CIP tonight.
Okay,
But it's what I was focused on was trip and fall hazards more than the accessibility. But if a sidewalk is a trip and fall hazard, you probably can't get a wheelchair over it either.
right. And then there are areas that don't have sidewalks. So will we be concentrating on any of those streets?
I had in my mind, in my little brain, repair,
Okay,
not building new ones. And in some cases, we need to do an assessment, the way we did with our pavement management plan and our water master plan and wastewater master plan. And those, the process I shared with the safety committee was that assessment. Where you actually rank them in different colors and you spray paint them in different colors, just mark them. so that the contractor knows which ones that they should be working on. But that's why I just used a round number, because we haven't done that assessment yet.
Okay, and then on the homeless program, you budgeted $10,000. Is that $10,000 going to stay with us, or are we going to be giving it to the county?
A year ago, maybe it was just 6 months ago, the county has asked and suggested that we help pay for a position, a homeless coordinator position. And they recently filled that spot without asking us for a contribution. So I would need to get back in touch with the CAO and ask him what the status is. I'm kind of afraid because he's going to send us a bill.
I was going to say, don't say anything.
Don't say anything. So, but I've got it there just in case they pull our chain, I guess.
Okay. And then, let's see, where else? I've got all these little notes that I made. Okay, you've answered that one. So there was, I can't find my spot. There was something that you mentioned where we have funds, and I was wondering if it's going to include the Measure G. It talks about, okay, the city combines gas tax funds with Measure G and other dedicated road. And then you said the city's capital improvement budget will use $500,000, and that's including what we get from Measure G, right?
Right, and that's one of the biggest happy surprises about the CIP is that we actually had over $1 million, and I believe 800 of that was Measure G. As we see our sales tax grow, Measure G is also sales tax, so it has apparently grown far faster than expected from COG. So we're blessed to have enough money in there to do some significant street improvements without having to jump into our general fund or any other general fund money. So that's good.
Okay. And then I did see on you mentioned the water rates, and in the charts that you show in several of the ones that we got from you previously last week, the water rates for residential are the same as commercial. Do we pay the same rates that the commercial people pay, or is there a difference?
Everyone pays the same base rate, the cost of having the meter. We used to have a higher price for a 1-inch line or a 2-inch line or a 3-inch line, but I think the courts have muddied the water a little bit, made it less clear. So we're relying on our volumetric rate, the second rate, to get the large users. So if a commercial business, the water store, uses more water than Lola's or residential area, then they would pay that volumetric rate to make it the difference.
Okay, all right. And those are all my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Flores, questions?
No questions, a lot of information.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels?
Yeah, Don, just a couple, the proposition money that we're using for our parks, is that Prop 68?
Yes, 68.
Okay, and can we use money from Prop 68? I assume we can use that to upgrade our parks, or does it have to be used to build or something new? Can it be for like upgrading stuff?
Right, that's a great question, Scott. So when the governor released his budget a year ago, and actually 2 years ago, they created different categories for Proposition 68 money. And what we're using at Veruti Park is obviously an upgrade by adding a restroom. That was about $70,000 of Proposition 68 money, and then we used $100,000 at Franklin Park, which was brand new construction. But that money, I don't know if that's in the budget now. If we get another shot at that, I hope we do, because that's been our major source for our park improvements. So other money that you apply for and compete for, we're struggling with because the state has determined that the State Historic Park, which is a pretty large piece of real estate in our downtown, is actually park land. And so our parkland per capita is quite high. So it's hard for us to qualify for the other competitive Prop 68 dollars because our parkland per capita is high. I've talked to Assemblymember Rivas and his staff about this and getting away from this geo-tracker mapping system that they use, because this is a huge handicap for us. This is not a playground or a basketball court. It's a restored building, right? It's a historic building in a lot of cases. So I think we got the short end of the stick from Prop 68 in that regard. But the per capita money we have taken advantage of. It can be just repairs.
I think you might have answered my next question. So we're not sure if we'll see something from that every year.
Right,
But
right.
And if we did see something, does it show up after the beginning of the fiscal year then?
It would be in the governor's budget,
Okay,
but I can take a look at that. Let me take a close look at the governor's budget. It should be just about ready to adopt, right?
the reason I'm asking is our ballpark the lighting needs to be upgraded. The lights that we're using for that ballpark, I think, they look, it's like they came off a World War II battleship.
And we need a timer. We need a timer on those lights.
A timer and some maybe LED lighting or something a little more cost efficient and not as difficult to fix. Those things have got to be difficult. Okay, that was the ballpark question. I want to make sure that was in there. And then maybe next year's budget. I don't know how things are looking. If there's much meat left on the bone, but City Hall needs air conditioning. Probably need a whole new HVAC system for City Hall. The council chambers and City Hall. I don't know if there's anything in the, if you've got anything down the road about that, but we get those rare occasions in August, September where it gets unbearable. So, and wall units can't work all the time, or the window units don't work so well. So just something I was thinking about. And then
Thanks.
yeah.
It's 77 in here now.
Okay, well, it gets miserable in that room. Okay, that's everything else is I've gone over a couple times and had some chance to see stuff, and I did ask you about Pet Friends this morning, so I want to make sure I was worried they were going to get bumped out when we were going to help pay for that fire feasibility study. So I didn't want that to go away. So it looks good. Thank you. Appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Freeman?
Yes, thank you. To follow up on Scott, I do appreciate all the work that you've done, Don and Wendy, but I do have a couple of questions on the Corporation Yard under Community Facilities Projects. You have $20,000 budgeted, and it says no progress. Now, what would that $20,000 be for?
That carried over from the budget that I inherited when I came in 2019. I believe the 20,000 was for fencing so that you couldn't see the equipment inside the yard.
Okay, thank you. I would rather save that money and just maybe have a $20,000 fund for new facilities to follow up on Scott's air conditioner quote. We could move that Corporation Yard, which is ugly, even with new fencing, it would still be ugly, to a different place, either the old sewer plant or well 6 out there, and still have plenty of room. for all the equipment and all the pipe and all the spare parts and whatever else is collecting there. And then we can think about a new use for that space. Also, I'd like to remind the city administration that there are grant funds available for new HVAC units for the city hall. That would be heat pumps for both the offices and for the console rooms, that they could be, and that heat pump, as you may or may not know, are reversible, and they can heat in the winter and cool in the summer. And I think we could get a good portion, if not most of that, paid for through improvement subsidies run out of AMDAC. So I would suggest that we look into that, to cover that in our budget. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I keep hearing more money on grants. What is our grant company doing? What are they working on now?
So they're focused right now on the revolving loan fund with the water board. There's still some environmental studies and other details that they need to correct in June to get that application complete so that we can get on the State Water Resources priority list for our wastewater project in particular. And then right behind that is trying to get similar low interest loans through that program for our water project. They are also wrapping up the USDA grant and loan application. That too has a few outstanding items in it. We thought we had it completed in December, and then now the USDA is reviewing it. They just sent it to Fish and Wildlife for review, and we're getting more questions. They're also working on we had several applications. They helped us with the Prop 68 application, so that's one success. They completed a large grant application for $750,000 for historic preservation to incentivize and help property owners restore their historic buildings. And we just learned last week that that was unsuccessful. So not all of their applications have been successful, but that was a very competitive program that only funded, I believe, 13 different grant programs across the whole country. But we were in the running up until last week. We requested an updated list from California Consulting, so I'd be happy to share that with the council. There's a few more that they're working on.
Oh, cool. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Just to go over, I don't know what slide it is. Draft city budget 6.
Page 6. Okay.
Yep, slide 6. Yes.
Oh,
I think.
here you go. The ARP money.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, help me understand these columns. School facility joint use, that's the fence. It was 175. And the new total ended up being 100.
Right.
Okay. 3rd Street transformation for 115. That's just a study, correct?
No, that's in-depth community engagement and infrastructure as well as design program for basically what the city wants the 3rd Street to look like in the future. And it's complicated because, of course, it's historic nature. But this is similar to what we did in Salinas. It was referred to as the Main Street Vibrancy Plan, the Downtown Vibrancy Plan. And it covers everything from replacing aged infrastructure to reviewing the one-way street that exists now and converting that back to two-way street, that kind of analysis, as well as traffic safety. So as you know, we have parklets on top of water mains right now. It's not the best situation. So we were looking for an overall comprehensive fix to that. So that was one of the 3 initiatives that is described in the narratives that I've been providing to the council.
Yep.
And it's what we call a master plan for Third Street.
Okay, I just want to, I don't want anybody getting confused that it's only $115,000 to transform Third Street.
No, this is just the American Rescue Plan. That's the point of this one. This one shows it at 215, shows the last year's budget of 100 plus the 115 down here in the bottom.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the public safety initiative, that's the cameras that we've been talking about?
Right, and the cameras require a little bit of backbone and operational capacity. So I've been doing my best to try and piece that together. I'm hoping our new security company can support us with that as well.
Okay, and the track and field, that's the, whoops, I went dark. That's the money for the track and field, the $50,000 for Teresa Lavanino's letter.
Right, the San Juan Home and School Club that are looking at, we have secured $100,000 matching grant. The project total is $387,000. And then they make about $10,000, $25,000 on the Fiesta Run, which they couldn't have during COVID. So to date, 151 from 185 different, 151,000 from 185 different individual donors. So they've raised 151,000 out of 387 with a plan to do these special events in the future.
Nice.
That's Teresa's letter.
Okay, and the 15,000 for Lake Park, perfect. We have all this money going to budgeted for the water master plan and the wastewater master plan. Do we have anything in for infrastructure replacement?
So that's what we refer to, well,
Or is that-
infrastructure. There's different kinds. So under street projects, the PMP stands for Pavement Management Program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the Measure G funds require the city to work towards increasing its street quality index. And the pavement management plan determined that we were not bad, like at 60%, but we need to get that back up to 85%. And it recommends which streets to improve first.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
So that's an infrastructure plan, obviously. The sidewalk repairs are an infrastructure plan. We're working on the force main for sewer and the import of water. Those are the two focuses for the utilities.
But those are outside. I mean, like our septic lines and our water lines, aging facilities. With the wow, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, I get where you're going. Why don't we have, if we have a sidewalk repair line item in our CIP, do we have a water line item in our CIP? For systematically replacing water lines. I didn't want to request a expensive line item, $200,000 or $300,000 for water and sewer. We're able to cover and put Band-Aids on with the operational budget now until we get our compliance projects repaired. So I've been trying to, I didn't want to, the CIP is considered in the rate study, obviously. So if I had $500,000 in here and we could afford to use our water enterprise fund for that, it would cause the rates to go up as when we did our study. So I've been trying to hold tight on budgeting large amounts for water and sewer lines in-house, as you say, until we get these two projects funded.
Okay, so nothing in the rate study is going to that. It's all going to everything outside of the city to move the wastewater outside of the city and to bring that main water line to the city limits.
Yes, that's been my focus. And if the council wants to direct me to be more aggressive with our lines in the city, I can, but I'm afraid that it would impact our rate study.
That would increase the rates
Would increase the rate.
even more.
Right.
Okay, so this is just for stopping at the city limits on either side, either going that way or coming this way. Okay.
Yes, telemetry is about the biggest thing I've budgeted, and you and I have had this conversation, Mayor, that the telemetry could save us a ton of overtime and staff hours. So
Yeah.
I think that's a cost-effective investment. And then the emergency generators, I believe we can get through Homeland Security grants.
Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, I think everybody else has already asked and answered my other questions. Okay, I'm good. Do we have any, oh, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Thank you. Just one more. Dawn, did our public works director, did he increase his training budget? These guys are on a roll. They're doing some good training. I'd kind of hope we can increase their training budget a little bit and get them up to the 1990s if we could.
Sure, yeah, hold on just a second.
Public Works Director?
Well, Carl or Nick is our.
Oh, Nick.
Right.
Whatever his title is, yeah.
Right. I did go through and we increased travel per diem from 750 to 2,000 in streets, and education and training stayed at 1,000. That's just an example. In our sewer budgets, I tried to get them all about $2,000 a piece so that we would have sufficient funds in there. As you saw in our employee our salary distribution, one employee is paid for by 3 or 4 different funds. So I just went through all of these. Here's another one: education and training and building and grounds. It's going to stay at 1,000, but the water and sewer are up over 2,000 for those. So yeah, we did. I did increase them from where they were, and I'm trying to get Nick to use it. That's the key. is getting the money hitting the road. But yeah,
Okay.
I did go through Nick's training budget with him.
And a couple thousand is gonna, it doesn't seem like a whole lot. I don't know how much training costs these days for, in the public works realm, but I'm sure there's, well, it's better than before though. So, okay, thank you.
Well, yeah, and if we get an opportunity through the American Public Works Association or the Water Association, those are good economics. They've gone up to Gilroy and over to Watsonville and joined other cities and worked together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? No? Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Anyone who has joined the meeting tonight who wishes to speak, please use the raise hand button in the bottom of your screen. For those that have called in, you can press *9. And so if you want to speak on this item, please use the raise hand button. We do not have any hands raised at this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, Wendy, you want to ClearGov us?
Yeah, let me ClearGov you guys. I'm super excited to be able to have a second to talk about the budget. I'm going to share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, I thought I just turned it on.
Okay, here we go.
Did I turn it on?
Can you see the ClearGov screen on your screens?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, so I'm going to do an overview. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to take a look at our Select New program here. But when you bring up the link, you get a number of different menu options. The first menu option is our introductory. It's got the city manager's letter and a link for demographics and org charts. The next link is our budget overview, which has our strategic plan and priorities and issues and any personnel changes, if they've been updated. And then over in the fund summary section, this is where we look at our funds overall. We have a lot of funds, one being the general fund. I'm not going through every link with you guys, but I just want you to see mechanically how it all works. So we'll take a look at the general fund. And under fund summaries, and there'll be a narrative for you to read through, all of Dawn's handwriting. Then we have a summary. And in that summary, it will show you graphs that give us historical information as well as budget versus actual. What are the variances here? So you see the greens, the buttons here, the legends that will tell us if you hover over what the dollars are. I've asked for them to get rid of pennies, but they don't want to do that. And then we go down further, and here's our projected revenues. So you can hover again, but we have a chart here that shows you where our major revenue sources are from the general fund. And then if you scroll on down some more, you get a nice pie chart that breaks it out by percentages. Obviously, sales tax is huge. We've got a lot of grant funds anticipated for this next year. The ARP funds are in there as well. Scrolling on down some more, we get a stack chart that also you can hover over, and it'll tell you percentages for each in the current year. How much, for example, other tax revenues 9.6, prior years 13.9. So a lot of hovering you can do if you want to get kind of a feel on where we've been and where we're going. In addition, there's a link here, spreadsheet breakdown. That will give you more information on what our 2021 actuals were, what our 2022 budget was, 2023 budget, and percentage change. Down the next section down below, and this is standard for all fund summaries, this format here, as it applies to the different funds. Same thing, we get these pie charts and bar charts. Again, you can hover over for our expenditure side of the equation. Another spreadsheet on the expenditure side, again, actual, budgeted 2022, budget 2023, variances.
So on this screen, if you could scroll back up, we're rebuilding the city attorney's budget. So that's why it's up so high. We took it down, we took 30% off in 2021 during COVID, and so we're rebuilding it. It was at 65,000, so that's why that one's growing so fast. And then you'll see the impact to our salaries, of course. And library is up 26%. They're restoring the summer programs, and we hired an additional part-timer a while back. It was approved by the council. Public safety is up 30% because we added that second deputy in there. And then the rest is pretty much towing the line. So yeah, that's why you see, that's why this chart is really good to look at. I prefer I'm the budget geek, so I like the spreadsheet model the best. Okay, thanks, Wendy. If anyone
Sure, yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad you stopped me there, because also I just want to make mention that, Public Works, the folks at Public Works, we had a notice on our workers' comp that it increased it significantly. So that's part of this increase, and it will play out in your enterprise funds as well.
Yeah.
Then we get by expense type, like major expense categories, contracts, wages, whatnot, and it puts it in order of the burden. And more charts for you to look at and play with. This one's got by the object type, not the one above is by department. This one's by object type, such as, overall, total utilities, general administrative. And then beyond that, so again, here's all of our funds that you can look at. That's not as extensive as the general fund, obviously, but there's more information, narratives, and familiar graphs in these areas. Under departments, we have all of our general fund departments as well as our community development department. And I'm not going to pick on city council because there's not a lot going on there. No offense. Let's pick on finance. So same thing, if you click on the link, then you can kind of see more on the, when you get the narrative, Then you get the expense side, a little bar graph here. It gives you a little history on where we've gone and where we're going. And then by type, predominantly in your wages, and then contract services. And then you can again get a spreadsheet breakdown, which will show you the different expenses that reside within that department and comparative information. 2021 actual, 2022 budget, 2023 budget, and the change in the anticipated budget. Let's look perhaps at city library. Department 16, again, another narrative. And the same thing, you know, historical information by my major category of the expense types. Historical, so you can like hover over it and see. Not a lot happening in these this year, huh? It was a rough year. And then again, some more comparatives. That's a brief overview, and I want to, you know, encourage you all to take a moment to poke around if you haven't already. This would be a good place for, you know, members of the public and the city council to become familiar with what goes in, what the major expenses are or expenditures. And if you have any questions for us, you know, let us know. Don's happy to answer, and whatever he needs support on, I'm available to help.
Wendy, could you take us back to the budget overview? Priorities and issues, could you open that one real quick? This is a narrative that I've handed out to the council back in May 17th, I believe. And this is where I talk about the city's 3 initiatives and the status of them. So if someone's asking you, you know, what are the city's priorities this year? You could just point them in this direction. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. And these are the same charts that are in my report. So this has all been updated. And here's your sphere of influence general plan amendments. And then the next initiative is the 3rd Street master plan. So if the council needs to describe this to somebody, where are we spending our money? There's 115 plus 100 within a 5 to 10 year window that describes that. And here's our public safety initiative talking about our public safety committee, how we had King City come and talk to us about cameras as well as others, and how that's the focus right now. So that's where you find that information, which is sometimes easier to share with your neighbor or member of the public. I just want to make sure that everyone knew where to find that. And then here's the community services part-time described, and also the changes in our safety department with the new dedicated deputy. So back to budget overview real quick. Personnel changes, I added that in last week. I can just glance at it for a minute. This is where we've grown from 15 positions to 18 positions, but that's full-time equivalent. So a lot of that is part-time staff. The changes that I was confirming what we have. I have to say, I have some sad news. We have 2 candidates for your deputy city clerk back out of the interviews because we weren't paying enough. So I'm not sure what we're going to do there. We're going to go forward with the 2 remaining candidates and see what happens. I think I've warned the council of that before. and then here's the workers' comp. I just added that today. So, and there's your total salary budget. Rather than 8.9, it's now grown to an 18% increase due to the various things we've already discussed. So, so that's your personnel overview. And then lastly, Wendy, I did add the capital. Oh, I didn't align. Just a quick overview of our capital improvement priorities. And then here's the same chart that was in my slides. So you can go right to the budget and find it here. So, and then the whole CIP is listed there as well. And it's actually easier to read in ClearGov than it is on my little slide. So, so that's a good thing, indicating new or whether we've added money or not. So that's where all the details are. If you ever need to access them or send someone towards me. The mayor and treasurer and I had a great meeting about a year ago, just going through all this stuff. So I think it's quite helpful. Happy to do that. If you want to come in, I can walk you through it. But it sounds like most of you are feeling pretty comfortable with the software. And if you are, then we can get your neighbor to be. So that's the way we're doing it. So much better than spending Memorial Day at a copy machine. I did that for about 8 years of my early career back in the 80s, 90s. Spent every Memorial Day weekend copying the 500-page budget for the city council. This is much better. Much better for everyone involved. So anyway, thank you for sharing, Wendy. That's all I wanted to cover.
Sure. Should I stop sharing now?
Yeah, unless the council wants to go to a special department, maybe law enforcement, or I don't know. What's the pleasure of the council? Do you want to look at this some more?
I'm okay with it. I've seen it before and I feel pretty, it's very easy to use.
Okay, great. Okay.
Cesar, is there anything you want to look at in particular?
Nope, I'm good with it.
Scott?
I'm sorry, Wendy, when you were explaining how to get to it, my iPad kind of locked up a little bit. What could you kind of give me that walkthrough one more time? I apologize.
So Don, you provided them with a link, correct?
I did, and I'll can resend it out after tonight's meeting if you like, Scott.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and once you get, if there's a link, I can go. So I don't go to the city website. There's another link.
Oh, there's one of both.
Okay, because I've been doing everything reading everything off of sheets of paper, and I've scribbled all over them now. So it'd be kind of nice to see it a little cleaner.
Yeah, if you go to just open up the link, it'll take you right here and you can hover over any one of the drop-down menus and just select what it is that you would like to look at.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Don, do you have anything in particular?
No, I wanted to share the library budget with you.
Sorry, that was a John.
Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't the Don.
Thank you. I'm good with it. In fact, I'm playing with ClearGov right now on a second computer. So
Good.
Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Don.
Oh, no, I don't have anything else. Sorry. I thought you said Don. Okay.
Okay. Do we have anybody from the public?
We do have some in attendance. If those who have joined us tonight on Zoom, if you'd like to use your raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen, we will get you in to be able to speak for 3 minutes. Again, the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen. No one has raised their hand, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So I got some good suggestions. And I'll get to work on these so I can follow up. We have our regular city council meeting is a special meeting on June 14th. And I don't know if the council sees a need or an interest. We could have a meeting between now and the 14th. Although it would be a challenge. We could, yeah. So the 14th would be our chance to adopt the budget as presented, I guess.
I did a scroll down. There's a security reimbursable for $4,000.
Those are for community hall rentals? They place a deposit on the community hall when they rent it? So we collect a security,
A security deposit.
right?
Well, it's security reimbursable is when we receive an invoice for security, when that security was specifically used for an event at the community hall. So we separate that out to, we can look and see what the revenues are. Are they covering? They should absolutely cover what we're billed for. So we piece that away from the regular operations of the city.
Okay. Mary, go ahead.
So when we meet again on the 14th, we'll be approving the budget.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay. So I just have one concern or objection. And that's the the $2,000 for the hazard employee. I don't feel that we need to pay that at this time. If they got their regular wages, I don't understand why we should pay them over and above what they had earned. And so if we're going to approve the budget, I didn't want to approve it with that in there. Hello.
Dead air. Wait, I think everybody froze. And along those lines, if we're making suggestions, now, is that what we're doing, is making
Yeah.
suggestions?
Yeah, I'd love to
Okay.
have a conversation about this, yes.
Okay. Since we have private security and the sheriff's department at night on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and security all night, every night, can we put code enforcement back down to 20 hours a week, 5 days a week? I don't understand the evening time. I just don't understand what he does at night
It's
or
the-
on weekends.
It's the best time to catch roosters.
Oh,
There
no,
is that, and I've
we
heard
need to
some,
hire somebody else to do that.
I've heard some comments about that too, that we can talk about offline.
Okay.
I
I would like a little bit of orientation and training with the new security team, but that makes sense that we should be able to find some cost efficiencies in that area. So maybe say effective July 1, for example, or after the 4th of July.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing. You know, being that we're having another, we're going to have another deputy, then
Perhaps,
that would, I'm sorry?
perhaps, have we
Oh, yeah,
officially
okay.
decided that?
well, I know, but
We
still,
haven't talked about it.
we haven't decided, but if we do decide to do that, then, you know, our code enforcement, we would free him up to do what he really is supposed to be doing. And that is, you know, looking at, you know, violations within the city limits at normal hours. He shouldn't have to be coming back at night, you know, to work. You know, if we're going to have, you know, potentially have the sheriff's office, you know, overlapping, and then also our new security company. And that was another thought that I had. So thank you for reminding me by your comment, Leslie.
My pleasure.
If I could chime in, I have to disagree with Mary on the hazard pay. It's pretty much as far as I know, and knowing people still working in the job I left, they received it. Everybody who worked, a grand majority of people who worked through COVID received it. And it's coming down from the top on this one. So if we're getting it, Dawn, did we get money from the state or the federal government for that specific?
Could be used for that. The American Rescue Plan money was designated as a potential use for that. We use the American Rescue Plan to replenish revenues lost by the general fund. So, but the that's what most cities are doing there. For example, I believe Hollister got $9 million, so they used $500,000 for hazard pay.
Thank you.
And we don't have any left for that, do we, of that?
Well, that's what that whole budget was. I've restated it. I could show you the slide, but
But you don't have to show us a slide, but I guess we don't have what we received from the state. We don't have any of ours left over
well,
for that.
that was the chart I showed with the 10,000 for the homeless programs, the business grants that we just gave out. Allocating 115 additional funds for the 3rd Street, 100,000 for the cameras for $200,000 budget, the park track and field contribution, and the Love Park historic improvements contribution. So it could be part of that budget. But what was explained to me from the city of Salinas was just to pay it out of the general fund, because that money went to replace lost sales tax and lost property tax, and transit occupancy tax was a big one. And that way you're not triggered with a bunch of regulations over who the employees were, et cetera, et cetera. So the other cities just chose to use their general fund and not the American Rescue Plan money, but to honor the fact that they were working in hazardous conditions and offer the stipend. So that's the way I understood it in the city of Salinas when I talked to their HR director. Just trying to simplify the administration of it.
If I could, I mean, we received half the funds in this fiscal year. We received the other half within the next month or two. And the way they had set up the American Rescue Funds, they wanted to simplify for smaller cities and local government. So they said they gave us a blanket $10 million. If you could simply just say that it's to replenish the general fund funds from lost revenues. They don't need to know anything more than that. You can utilize those monies to help fund the operations of the general fund without any other follow-up reporting around that. We got well below $10 million.
But that was the statutory limit. Of course, we didn't get $10 million. We only got $500,000.
Well, and the city of Salinas is a little bit larger than we are.
Oh yeah, and I think they got 13. Yeah.
Well, no, not for that. I'm for the hazard pay. I might consider half, and then even half of that for part-timers.
How many do we have, Don?
Yes, what?
10,
10.
And they're all full-time?
No, it includes the librarian and code enforcement officer.
Okay.
They're 30 hours.
So I have to agree with Scott here. I think we're a penny pension. One of the problems that small communities have is employee retention. And if our employees figure out, and they will, that Hollister, Monterey, Salinas, Santa Cruz, every other place got employee hazard pay for working during COVID, and they didn't, they're going to be rather upset, and that's not good for morale. I think we have a pretty good public works crew. I think we have a very good staff, and I'd like to keep them happy. Pinching pennies just to pinch pennies is not, the money has been received by us from the federal government. It's not like we have to steal from another budget to pay this. We have the funds available. It's probably one of the better uses we could use, as opposed to giving more money to Hollister for homeless. So I have to agree with Scott. I think we need to pay our employees decently. Thank you.
I understand what you're saying, John and Scott. I do understand. The thing of it is that, we're being compared to a city that's much larger than us, including Hollister. Hollister's a whole lot larger than us, and so is Salinas.
But we got the money, so that makes no difference.
So
But we
we
have fewer
have
employees.
that amount of money available. You're not
Yes.
having to take from anybody or anything else.
As I understand it, that's correct.
No, I'm asking Don.
No, it's, right, so you saw the general fund, you saw the $600,000 in grant money that's coming into the general fund. Last year, I believe it was less than $100,000, so that's where that money was placed. And so that's where it was proposed to be budgeted from.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation, but, I still feel that, we're much smaller community.
But
Then
Mayor, we're only-
what-
it's only 12 people. We're not talking about 120 people, it's only 12. I mean, that is in comparison to the
Or
size of our,
10.
well, is it 10 with 2 part-time?
I think that's what Wendy just put 10 fingers up.
Okay, 10 people then. So it's even better. It's even less. I mean, yeah, we're small.
Absolutely.
But we only have 10 employees.
So what about half for the part-timers?
Our part-timers did a lot of work too. They probably worked I would bet that they worked more than part-time during that.
They did.
Remember Wendy had to, or not Wendy, but Rochelle had to wear a whole new hat,
Yeah, and so the code enforcement. Yeah.
way out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
If we have somebody from the public with a hand raised.
Would you like me to let the person in? We ready for that? Okay.
Sure.
Heidi, I see that you have your hand raised. I'm bringing you in. If you unmute yourself, your 3-minute timer will start.
Hi,
Hi,
Heidi, welcome.
hi, good evening. You have such wonderful employees. They've done so much and helped me. Your librarian does so much with doing the COVID shots and all kinds of information. I don't care about part-time or full-time. Your public works are there constantly giving these people basically a little over $22,000 is just not very much out of the budget to give them a little bit of a bonus. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else that has joined the meeting that would like to speak, if you would raise or press your raise hand button at the bottom of the screen. Your hand will be raised. You'll be brought into the meeting. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. We have no other hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else?
So how do we make that motion? Do we make a
There's-
motion or do we change the budget there,
No, it's
changing
not,
it?
it's not a motion, it's not a change.
And this is a discussion item. There's no action.
So eventually on June 14th, there would be an action, Councilmember Flores, and the council I can itemize these in a resolution and you can add them or subtract them and come up with a resolution that we can get a majority vote for. That's the way I would propose.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun motion.
I know, we just went through this with fireworks. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And parklets
And park-
Yeah.
and spinning.
But those are the two issues that I'm taking away from tonight. To look into HVAC, upgrade lighting at Abbey Park, and then to look at code enforcement hours and reducing the proposed stipend for hazard pay. And a list of California consulting projects that they're working on.
Okay. Grants, lights, HVAC. What about, John mentioned the courtyard, again, which is a good thing. That was a good thing, John. Looking at a cost to moving that over to somewhere else and potentially putting basketball courts or something in there.
Good idea. Pardon me. You want to remove the $20,000 to the courtyard? That's
Not
what I-
not necessarily, just to look at moving it to a new location. In general,
Uh-huh.
and the fencing is the slats, correct?
Yeah, basically.
Because if it's gonna cost a huge amount of money to move it today, then slats as soon as possible. I have not yet seen a courtyard ever that looks nice.
Right.
Okay, so grants, HVAC, lights. What were the two other things?
Reduce code enforcement hours to 20 hours a week. And eliminate or reduce the hazard pay stipend.
Well, it doesn't sound like that was a unanimous thing, so. So it sounds like we're keeping that at 2 for everybody. Okay, does anybody have anything else
Okay, great.
that we're revisiting or potentially putting on for a resolution in 2 weeks out of that list?
You know what? I do have something, and I know that, I don't know, it could be in another time, not now. But I think that maybe we should consider also giving the city council people a stipend beginning in January. It's just a thought that I've been mulling over, thinking of all the hours that we spend reading and researching. And I think it would be something that I think, we might consider is, giving the council members some sort of a stipend. And I don't know if anybody has talked to you about that, Don. And how we compare with other cities and what other cities do. But it's a thought that I've had. And, since we're talking about the budget right now, I think it's something that we ought to consider.
We can
Yeah.
certainly look into it.
I can't get into the Zoom meeting.
You're in the Zoom meeting.
I'm having trouble with my Zoom. I can't see anybody, so I can't.
Oh, we can hear,
we
we
can
can
see
see
you.
and hear you.
Okay, because for some reason my Zoom is stuck somewhere in limbo. I think a stipend for the council meeting, we would probably need to look at that, the legality of that. Not saying that you all don't do a lot of work and deserve, but there are certain restrictions on I think what we could do in that regard. I need to look at it.
Okay, it's just something that I've been thinking about it. We're talking about the budget, so I figured I'd throw it out there.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty cool that this city is run by volunteers.
So
And a comment that was made the other day, Scott, where, I don't, the comment had to do with the volunteer fire department and how amazing it was, how amazing they were and what all that they did. And it was a compliment. And I looked at Scott and Don, and it was like, that's all we do. The whole entire city is run by volunteers. No offense, Don. or Wendy.
Yeah, and Mary, I appreciate you thinking about us, but I would not take a stipend, but thank you.
I agree.
I just
Thank
thought
you.
about it, you and I had a conversation about our meetings, and so
Yeah,
I
but
had thought of it before. I had thought of it before, but I'm not looking at it for myself. I'm just looking at it for other council members who will be maybe staying on or coming on as new council members. Because it is a time taken out of our schedules, and I schedule everything around my meetings, and I try very hard. I know last year was a very difficult year for me, and I did miss a couple of meetings, but it is a big commitment. It's a commitment, and I take it very seriously, and I know all of you do also. And so we're talking about the budget, so I thought I'd throw it out.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't either.
So-
It's really nice to be able to say, you can yell at me all you want, but why don't you step up and volunteer? Go ahead,
So
John.
I'd like to take this time to agree with Mary, and I think a stipend is needed. We actually spend money to be on the city council. We meet with people at Vertigo and this and that. It's not a lot of money, and I can afford it, but I think a very small stipend, let's say $100 a month or whatever, is completely appropriate and overdue. I assure you, every city in the Tri-County area pays a stipend except us. Everyone.
And John, I think back, my husband was on the city council for 10 years, and I remember he'd get home 10:30, and that's before Zoom. I'm lucky right now because I'm home. And so I can, I don't have a big, commute or anything like that. And not that it was a big commute when he used to come home, but they're late hours, that we look at how we got done a minute before 10 last time we talked. So, and it's just a thought. I just thought I'd throw it out there, and, but thank you for agreeing with me.
I agree. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, John. Anything else to see on that? To help Don with a resolution on the budget?
Okay.
Sidewalk repairs. Yep, nope, I guess that's it, Don. You're on your own for the rest of it.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Unless anybody has anything that they want to go in and chat about separately. And then if, I don't know how we'll get a hold of that, but anyway, you figure it out, Don. Good luck.
Okay, I'm on it.
I'll help you, Don.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Nice to know.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, proposed water rate increase.
All right. Okay. Right, so, thank you, Mayor. As we move forward with our water rate study, it was introduced May 21st is when we got it. And it's been refined and updated a little bit with the help of Bartle Wells. And that's Eric Helgeson, who's on tonight. And we'll get ready for a Prop 218 process. We have Mark Mendel on with us today as well. He's our attorney specialist in this Prop 218 process that we know so well, because last fall when we did this for sewer, we went through a similar situation. So we have a drafted Prop 218 notice that's ready to hit the mail. Got to try and mail it out by this Friday in order to be 45 days in advance of a July 19 City Council meeting where we would schedule and hold a public hearing to consider a rate increase. So with that, I have some of the same slides and I've enhanced the slides a little bit. And then Eric has his same slides to discuss, and we'll go through the numbers one more time. And hopefully if any questions come up during the way, please feel free to ask us to stop and we'll pause and take a look at that. So for now, Eric, I'm just going to share my screen real fast. And oops, there's your slideshow. Sorry about that. You come later. There you go. 3A was the item last time. Okay, great. Okay, so some of this is review. Of course, we understand, I think the council understands the mechanics of our water system, the 3 wells that we rely on, and the 1 well that's not being used. The question came up at my last presentation is what's the status of the Microbi technology that we installed out there? And I talked with the Wallace Group today, and they've done, I think, 3 or 4 different studies now on how to blend that water and integrate it into our system. So they hope to have a presentation to the water board and their permit completed within the next 60 days. And then I'm not sure how long the water board will take to process it, but it's a pretty complicated process that we began in December. And hopefully we'll get something to the water board in the next 60 days. That was an update I got today from the city engineer. So we serve about 2,100 residents, about 830 connections altogether. From that amount, we have a history of improving the water system, but not necessarily the wastewater system. So we got started improving the wastewater system first, but we still rely on the 1.25 million gallon tank, and we're still paying debt on that. But that's our backup, and we've had to use it more than once over the past 2 years. Gravity feed is a good thing when the power goes out. Water rate study and proposed increase is all about the Water Enterprise Fund, which I summarized for you in the budget. It's running a pretty good surplus right now. And when people pay their water bill, they pay a base rate. And then on top of that, they pay a volumetric rate for 1,000 gallons. And when the revenues exceed expenditures, the funds are placed in a reserve account, can only be used to expand the water system. Our capacity fee or our water connection fee comes through all new connections to the water system. So that's a pretty expensive fee to join our system, $10,000 to $15,000. This is a history of the base rate and increases since 2012. It's been increasing about 2% since 2012, and then when the current water rate study was approved in 2015, it jumped to 2.6%. So the current base rate is $55.76. And then the rate of a water bill ranges then from $75 per month to as high as $125 per month. That does not include the sewer bill. But the water and sewer bills together will range from $155 to $220 with an average of just about $200 a month. So the volumetric rate, that rate per 1,000 gallons, has not changed also since 2021, but did change substantially from 2015 to 2016. That's because we consolidated. We used to have 3 different volume rates, 0 to 3,000 gallons, 3,000 to 8,000 gallons, and 8,000 and above. But we simplified that due to a recent court case in San Juan Capistrano. And now we just have the one volumetric rate. The proposed rate increase with revenues budgeted at $1.2 million and expenses of right about $1 million. The revenues are exceeding expenses by a pretty hefty amount, which helps buffer the increase that's proposed to pay for our capital, but it pays for more than capital. We've talked about the status of our 3 wells. With only 2 of the 3 wells in operations, we're vulnerable to nitrate contamination, and if one of those wells were to melt down, we're functioning on 1 well. So it is good to look at different sources for water and expand our portfolio, and that became the EPA compliance project. So we have an administrative order on consent that was executed in August 2020 for violating our wastewater treatment permit or MPDES permit by sending too much salt to the creek. So we committed to removing salts from the source of the water in order to reduce the salts that we emit from our effluent. We're passing it right through our system. So we did approve 3 compliance projects, sending our wastewater to Hollister, which is happening as we speak. This project's underway, and the use of brine producing water softeners. But we wouldn't require the existing brine producing water softeners to be removed until after we get a commitment to blend surface water with our well water. So we have MOUs with Hollister and MOU with the San Benito County Water District to import surface drinking water. The staff report outlines the progress made to date. As I said, the wastewater project is 99% designed. It's going through final comments now from the county of San Benito Public Works Department. The approved sewer rates will pay for the capital costs, $12 million of the 18 to send our wastewater to Hollister, and $6 million is being raised in the form of grant funds. We've adopted the ordinance to ban the use of brine producing water softeners. I did have a chance to talk to Sean Novak since we last talked. And we talked about the number that was in our budget, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So we have our MOU with the water districts. We have a capital improvement budget based on 30% drawings. That was in the fall of 2021. And we've been negotiating the costs for not just the capital, but the costs for buying into this regional program. We hired Ridgeline Consulting, and Dmitry Semenoff was at our last conversation. Tony Cal helped author our water and wastewater master plans. Dmitry and Tony are not here tonight, but I can try and answer questions that you may have of them. In the rate tables that were sent out with the rate study in the back, it summarizes the details of each cost component. And that's important because it's not just the capital cost like it was with Hollister's project, but it's also the cost of treating that water and buying the water. So the CIP cost estimates and buying into 8% of the San Benito County Water District as a shareholder. And there's an agreement that I didn't go into much detail on that I want to spend a little time on tonight. It's this actually 2013 Hollister Urban Agreement. And I have a little more detail on that now. So 8% is based on the city's water master plan adopted in the fall of 2020. It's based on amended growth rate of 1.9% per year for an amended, soon to be amended general plan. City consumes about 1 to 1.7 million gallons per day, depending on the weather and the day of the week, holidays, etc. And the system to import water is designed for 2.25 million gallons per day. So, but that's only 65% is what we plan on blending. So it's important to realize that we're going to continue to use our well water for 35% and the new surface water for 65%. And this is the Hollister Urban Area Water Supply Treatment Agreement, again, from May 2013. So this agreement is between San Benito County Water District, the City of Hollister, and the Sunny Slope Water District. we reviewed this in detail with the water committee, with the mayor and Councilmember Freeman, to try and understand its different components, because this is what we're buying into. It summarizes a decade of efforts in 2013 to come up with a master plan to coordinate water supply and treatment. So recently, in the past 8 months, the city has been participating in these regional conversations about not just importing water from the San Luis Reservoir, but building new reservoirs or increasing the capacity of reservoirs, and also groundwater and aquifer replenishment. So there's a whole plethora of different options that the city's now a participant in, and gets to share the decision making. But this section of the Hollister Urban Area Agreement talks about the capital cost component of the West Hills treatment plant and the LaSalle treatment plant. They were both updated back in 2013, 2016 to pay for the capacity to provide Hollister and Sunny Slope water. So we have to buy into that original investment. And the water supply component is the cost of raw water, of course, depending on who we get it from, whether the district buys it from the state or federal government or from another jurisdiction. Right now, we share 80%, 20% with the county of Santa Clara of the water that the district gets from the San Luis Reservoir. And then we have the treated water component, the actual chlorination and filtration and so forth, and then the power to pump the water. So we're buying into this complicated agreement, and that's why it costs a little more than just paying for the capital. So this is the same chart that Dimitri shared with the council and all the details that go behind it. I'm happy to bring up the 10-page detail of this. If someone wants to delve into it that deep, we could do that tonight. That was the point of having this conversation. Here's the Hollister Urban Area Plan buy-in. You can see is a pretty hefty amount, 230,000, and then the financing repayment, the debt service. So overall, this is looking at close to $110 per resident. And so what the rate study did was it took that over a 5-year period to see how we could even the costs, so that no single year was a huge increase. So we have, these are the details. Again, at that time, when the Hollister Urban Area Project was developed, the San Bernardino County Water District offered a reimbursable contribution. So they're extending that to the city as well. So there is a credit there of $869,000 that's collected through property taxes for maintaining our groundwater aquifers. Wastewater treatment plant for the capital reserve, and on so forth. The soft costs are for design, right-of-way acquisition, or for when the pipeline gets to our incorporated boundaries. We have to acquire right-of-way along San Juan Mission Vineyard Road, out on the south part of town by well 6 as it comes into our program. So yeah, so you got construction costs, that's your capital, 7.691. And that right there is 11 million of the 12 that we're talking about. So that's what we're trying to finance, and that's what the rate study is based on. And Eric can run through his slides for us now. We have to finance about $12 million. We need 7.6 million in capital. Assumes long-term financing by the district at 4.5%, and the buy-in to the urban area plan and other things that we need to come up with. So it's rather complicated. So ready to take time on that today, but I'll let Eric run through his slides, and then we can answer questions at the end. So Eric, I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'll make sure that you have the ability to share your screen. And if you could just run through your 4 or 5 slides again, that would be great.
All right, thanks, Don. I think it's going now, and I apologize if my dogs are too loud in the background. But I'll get going. So it's good to be here again to go over the presentation. The key objectives of the rate study are to make sure that you have enough revenue so that the rates are financially sufficient, meaning that the rate revenue is at a level where you can fund your operating costs, all your capital costs, which Don has just described, as well as meet your debt covenants, so the debt coverage ratio, which would be required to be able to get the financing to support the capital projects. So the rates need to be enough to meet those needs. Secondly, the rates need to be legally compliant, and largely that's driven by Proposition 218. A critical portion of that is that the rates have to be proportional to the benefit provided. And then we want the rates to be, we're focused on the customer. So we're looking for smooth, predictable rate increases. This is part of the reason we're working on this project right now. We want the rates to be increased in gradual, predictable increments rather than just having a massive jump when they're in 2024, 25. We're trying to spread that out so it's more predictable. And then also during that period, be able to build the reserve a little bit to potentially augment that final rate increase. Also, having the rates aligned with district priorities. In this case, it's really facilitating this project so that the city will be in compliance with the EPA. Just touching on 218 one more time. As I said, there's the proportionality requirement, and then there's also the procedural requirements. So in the last city council meeting, the council voted to authorize staff to send out 218 notices. These notices are the maximum. We'll show the maximum rate the council can adopt, and if fewer than 50% of the ratepayers plus one, so less than the majority submits a protest, the council will be then authorized to adopt rates up to the maximum rates noticed. And the notice period is a 45-day period. So once, so the notices have to be sent out at least 45 days before a public hearing is held. And at the public hearing, the protests will be tallied. There'll be opportunity for public comment, and then if they're like I said, if there's fewer than a majority protest, the council can go ahead with the rate adoption if it so chooses. The rate city process, we basically in a nutshell, we figure out the rate revenue that's needed. We allocate that. In this case, it's between the base charge and the volumetric charge. And then there's the 218 notice period and the outreach, which is the phase we're in right now. The project, as Don mentioned, is the substantial driver of the connection project, is a substantial driver of the rate increase. For the rate study, we also assume that when it goes into effect in 2024, that amount will be higher due to inflation. So the numbers used in the study are a little bit higher, and it just generally the numbers that we're using are still in a bit of a planning phase. Like the project, I believe, is at 30% design. So we made conservative assumptions in the rate study to ensure that your rates will, to do our best within reason to ensure that the rates will be sufficient to fund the project. And so because of the uncertainty, we have to make more conservative assumptions, meaning that it's possible if things go in the city's favor that the city may not need to go up to the fully noticed rate in I believe it's the third year of the rate increase, or even the fourth year. The city could choose not to go up to the fully noticed rate. The key driver of this rate increase is it's not just the capital cost, it's really the rate revenue itself. The the rate revenue has to be basically meet what's called a debt service coverage ratio. So that means that the revenues have to be greater than the expenses. Revenues less expenses have to be greater than the projected debt service coverage, and most and the target we have is 1.3 times. So the revenues less expenses have to be 1.3 times higher than the projected debt service. So that's really regardless of reserve levels or other expenses. It's just the rate revenue has to be at that threshold to be able to support the debt and facilitate the project. So our projected 5-year financial plan is that we're building up the rate revenues. So in the first 3 years of the 5-year period, the reserves will grow. But then in the last 2 years, the rates are just building to be at the level of projected costs. You can see the additional, each column in this graph is the total expense. The green line is the total rate revenue. And you can see that in 24-25, the project costs are added to the water enterprises expense. In our projections, and really the bottleneck of the study is in fiscal year 25-26, ensuring that debt service coverage ratio is above 1.3. So it dips down right to about 1.3 in that year. The proposed rates are increasing in the next fiscal year. So it'd be the recommended increase would be after this public hearing process. So probably in August 1st would be the recommended implementation, would be to implement rates of $7.05 for the volumetric rate and $65.91 for the base charge. And that's also reflecting a minor cost of service when we updated the cost allocations in this as part of this study to be compliant with Prop 218. And then those rates would grow over the next 5 years to 10.12 in fiscal year 26-27 and 94.47 as the monthly base rate. And the 10.12 is per 1,000 gallons. So the step we're at, we're finalizing the 218 notice, and that's going to be mailed out this week. Then there'll be that 45-day period. Public hearing is slated to be on July 19th, and then the rate adoption is projected to be August 1st. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Councilmember Edge, questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you, Eric. I really don't have any questions. I think I've read and I've gone over everything, and I think I understand it all. And from what I understand, the rates are projected as high as we can get it, so that if they come down, we're better off, and we won't have to increase these rates. Rather, we would be probably bringing them down. If that is that what you're trying to tell us?
That is correct, and you know, an example of why we do this is with the sewer rates, where that project ended up being much higher than was originally projected, but it looks like the rates that we proposed are likely going to be sufficient to still support the project. We need to make sure that the rates are sufficient. So exactly as you said, we're recommending the maximum rates so that you'll be able to get the work done, but we believe that they'll likely not need to be, you'll not need to go to the fully noticed rate.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Flores?
No questions, but very good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels?
No questions. I had an exciting afternoon rereading the whole study. It's a lot to digest, but I think I hope I haven't missed anything, or I think I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman?
Yes, thank you. To follow up on what Mary was saying, I was hoping you had a 4.5 interest rate from the district on the water construction and the water costs from the West Hills project. If we get grants and low interest loans from the USDA at 1.5%, we can substitute that 1.5% loan for the 4.5% loan and probably save several $100,000 a month or whatever in interest costs to the project. Is that correct, Eric?
Oh, yes. I don't know the exact amount, but yes, if the interest rate is lower, it would reduce your annual debt service payments. And so, and again, as I said, I do recommend, reviewing these costs in the second year before that final 14% increase to when the project costs are more clear, because the construction costs are very uncertain at this time. So
yes, yeah. So the only other comment I'd have is, Don, how are we doing on a USDA grant for the water system with the 1.5% loan? Is that's kind of a little tied up right now? Is that the case?
We've been focused on the sewer because that project's going to break ground sooner. And then we hope for next fiscal year, we would be in line for both the USDA and the SRF program.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Eric.
The application has been submitted for both.
Great.
Thank you. Refresh my memory, please. I know we talked about this last week. The 193 water softener buyback. We pay money to the San Benito County Water District. Does that not go to its programs?
So I did research that, Mayor, and unraveled what Stantec had calculated. And they had calculated 600 water softeners in the city out of 830 water customers, and a range between 300 and 800 per rebate. And they just assumed that the city would assume the entire cost of that project. So they took the average of 300 and 800 times 600 times 65% to come up with 193. So it's actually 192.5. And Eric and I talked about that, and Dimitri, and Eric again prefers to be on the conservative side these first 2 years and then review to see if we can actually experience a reduced increase in the third year, and keeping the 193 the same. Is that my understanding, Eric? We talked about it today.
Yeah, that's correct. As the big, the 30% level of the design is a big reason why I recommend keeping everything on the conservative side for now, and then reviewing when everything is much more certain. And also not just the design, but also, what the ultimate rates are going to be charged by the county for their, for the operating fixed service charge, and the amount they're going to charge, the volumetric charge they're going to charge the city also. So that's another area of uncertainty that we have tried to account for, but when you're close to it, you'll know with much more certainty what those charges will be.
Okay. So what is that? What are those monies that we send to them every year, just for the heck of it?
They take it off of our property tax, and it's a fund that was set up in the 70s, as I understand, about aquifer maintenance or something like that. I don't know that we actually cut them. We pay fees, of course, annual fees. I don't know exactly what that money is or where it comes from. So I don't know that we actually write them a check for the number of water softeners that are exchanged. I would like to get Sean into that conversation so he could explain it to you.
Okay. Um, Sorry, have sticky notes all over the place. With these new rates coming out and this is part of the budget as well. When are we going into looking at new contracts for water and or wastewater?
I have the RFPs on my desk. I was trying to get through the budget and so forth, so we could go out right away before July. And
Okay.
solicit those and get bids in 6 weeks or so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the email on well 6.
It's very complicated and very expensive, don't you think, Mayor? To get that blending permit is like more than $20,000.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand.
To use the microbial system, yeah.
Okay, I think I'm good. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation, Eric, and Don as well. Do we have any comments from the public?
For those that have joined us tonight, if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Your hand will be raised and you will be brought into the meeting to testify for 3 minutes. Again, for those that have joined us, thank you for joining us. Use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Mayor, we have no hands raised at this time.
Thank you very much. So the next big thing is May 31st meeting, a hybrid meeting at the library.
Yeah, that's today's meeting. So
Hey, where are we supposed to be right now?
we're at a point where we're going to be mailing out the Prop 218 notices. And then we'll also have an insert in the water bill for July. And after we did that for the sewer program, there was a lot of interest in the community. We got people's attention and we scheduled an in-person meeting. And I just would ask the council to keep June 28th available on your calendars. That would be an opportunity to have an in-person meeting here in the city council chambers with our spiffy new hybrid video system that just arrived today and it's still in boxes here. I'm looking at it. So it's going to be installed by the end of the week. So we should be back in person again and use our own facility. That would be awesome. I can't wait.
So what time?
6 p.m. We'll try and keep as much the same. Keep it on a Tuesday, keep it at 6 if we can.
Okay,
And if, sorry, getting ahead of myself. If we can put on June 14th's meeting, a discussion about going back in. Thank you.
Yes, I have that also.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns on this? We're good to move forward? We're good to move forward.
All right, then. I guess that's good news.
I think so.
Okay, well, I'll do my best to get the word out in the next couple weeks. So,
Perfect. Okay. Action item 3A, approve the affidavit of posting. May I have a motion?
motion to approve.
Thank you, Eric.
David of posting.
Thank you, Councilmember Edge. Do I have a second? Thank you,
Second.
Vice Mayor Flores. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Edge,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you very much. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Freeman. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Edge,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Once again, Norma, thank you so much for all you do for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norma.
You're
Good job,
welcome.
Norma.
Hi, everybody. Great job.
Everybody have a good day. Good
Thanks.
night.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Don.
Bye. Have a good
For the
week.
record-
Everyone.
Thank
For the
you.
record, please note that the meeting has adjourned at 8:05 PM.
Perfect.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thanks, Norma.
Thank you. Bye-bye.